Hey, I'm Clint Benish, and I want to welcome you to the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast, where our mission is to equip you with ideas and resources to faithfully serve in your local church. Please take a few moments to subscribe to this podcast and give it a 5-star rating and review. But for now, let's join Tim Price as we jump in today.
Thank you so much, and I'm glad to have Ava Andrews with us today on the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast. How's it going, Ava?
It's going good. How are you?
Doing well. It's great to take a minute today to talk a little bit about stage presence. But before we get into that, Ava, I've known you for a long time, and for the past 3 or 4 years, have served with you in different ministry. So we've sung together in Harvest a lot on conferences and summer teams. And for the last couple of years, you've been serving as one of the worship leaders here at our church in Troy. So I know I just said a couple bits about your life, but give us a little nutshell of who you are.
Well, I am 20. I'll be 21 next month. Woohoo! I got SIUE majoring in dance and minoring in meteorology and climatology. And I work at a restaurant, and that's kind of all I do. I sing, I work, and I dance.
That's cool. And every time you tell me that you're minoring in meteorology, it always blows my mind. I think it's awesome. I've just never known anybody that did that. So, and in addition to all that, I know you said you sing. You and I have something in common, that we both were part of St. Matthew, and we both part of Troy. Yeah. And I haven't been a part of St. Matthew in years, except I know a lot of people from there. But you grew up there in the youth group, and I did when I was a student as well. And so that's cool to have different outlooks and different ways of knowing about different styles of worship ministry. Mm-hmm. But it's been great to have you here. And anybody that is in our church's 2 services that meet on Sunday mornings in our Family Life Center recognize and know you. And for some of the people in our other 2 services who meet in the sanctuary, they may not know you as much. But it's awesome to have you as part of the ministry. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about stage presence, a seminar that you led back when we did our worship conference last fall. And so I thought we would just take some time to dissect this a little bit and see what your thoughts are. So we'll just start with, what is stage presence?
Stage presence is it's just an outward expression of, like, when you're on stage, how you're feeling inside. It's how you relate to the congregation. It's how you amp them up. It's how you express yourself.
Yep.
It's kind of it, really.
So it's like they hear you, but they also see you. So which of those is more important, or how do they work together?
The congregation can hear you, but sometimes they're not really into it. You know, it's early in the morning or late at night. And I feel like when you use your arms and you use your face and use your expression, then it shows them that they can do more than just listening and singing. They can feel God in their hearts and in their bodies, and they can show that to you as well.
Yeah. So is it hard to do? And you're actually a great example of stage presence in general. Like, you really bebop around and you connect people and you do the right thing at the right time. Sort of, it's not usually like over the top or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But is it hard to do stage presence stuff whenever the congregation is kind of just sitting there looking at us, or is it sort of like that challenges you or something?
Definitely. It's definitely like a conversation. Like, if the congregation is just kind of staring at you, you just feel awkward. But I mean, I feel awkward all the time anyway, but but definitely when I'm just being stared at. But I mean, it definitely challenges me to do more and convince them that, like, hey, it's okay to jump or raise your hand or smile. Smiling is good.
That's true. But that's a huge part of it. So what does stage presence have to do with in terms of leading worship? I know you just mentioned a few of those aspects of getting people, but how does worship leading and stage presence fit together?
I think that's a good question.
And I like your phrase, conversation with people, but you're also having a conversation with God, because we're not there to entertain people. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I think you do have to draw that line. Like, am I being funny? Am I being entertaining? Or am I showing people that God is here? His presence is on stage. His presence is in the seats. His presence is in the kitchen, stuff like that. I don't know. I think it's just kind of like me showing what I'm feeling from God to other people, and then they reciprocate.
And in some ways, yeah, that's really good. And in some ways, you actually have there is a fine line of like entertainment or whatever the word would be, and I'm not sure what the right word is, but you want people to feel like they're engaged and able to watch and basically enjoy worship, like just have fun being there and doing that. In our own church, have you seen any change in people since you started leading worship here?
I mean, not necessarily. I didn't know what it was like before I came. But I mean, I've heard from some people that everyone is more lively when I'm here. I don't know.
That's probably true. So you're a dancer, and you naturally sort of dance around here and there. So it might be easier for you to say, move around, dance, use your arms, move your face. But if we're going to get practical, what does it really look like for maybe somebody who is a singer but not a dancer?
I think it comes down to just being intentional with your movement and with just your presence in general. Like, you can stand on stage and you can sing and you can sound nice, but you have to, I guess, translate what's going on in your brain and what you're singing to the rest of your body. Like, it's not just your head that's doing the stuff.
The leading,
right? Yeah. It's not just your face. It's everything.
So if I was a singer, which I'm a bad example of this too, because I basically strum the guitar and stand at the mic, and I think I smile a lot, but I don't really do much else. Although I have heard that just moving your feet now and then makes a difference. Definitely. So do you consciously think about moving your feet, or do you just sort of do it now?
I just do, because if I stand still, it makes me really nervous. And of course I'm a dancer, and if I hear any music anywhere, I'm just like, yep. But
so what would other people do if you had to tell somebody how to be more natural on stage? Would you tell them what would be like the top 5 things you would tell somebody that was just stand up there holding the mic?
I'd probably tell them, like, hey, if you were practicing in your room for your stuffed animals, what would you do? Would you just stand there, or would you move around a little bit? Like, just pretend that it's just your stuffed animals out there. I don't know. If you get nervous, if like moving your arms and your feet makes you nervous, or if you're afraid you're going to do something that someone's not going to like that's stage presence is your expression of how God is working in your life, and someone else might not feel that way, but that's okay.
So there are times whenever we may not feel like it, but sometimes our own actions of our own lives, raising our hand or smiling bigger or moving our feet a little bit, actually tells our own bodies and our own lives that, we need to worship. So you think somebody can be, you can't really judge the heart of people, and worship is about the heart, but do you think somebody can be out there just hands in their pockets, looking up, barely singing, and still worship? Or do you think
definitely?
Or does it feel like somebody needs to like be moved a little bit out in the congregation?
I think there's different ways that people worship, and if standing there reverently, just listening, is your way of worshiping, then that's cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Some people just like to move around. Some people like to jump. Some people like to yell. Some people just like to stand. And I think as long as your heart's in the right place, that's all that matters. And maybe everyone can't see that, but there's nothing wrong with that.
So somebody said recently that in this day and age of live streaming and videos and people singing and all that stuff, that worship leading from the stage as a vocalist is 75% visual.
Definitely.
So, but that doesn't mean people can sound bad, because that would also be bad. But
right.
If the best singer in the world was up there and the song was a moving kind of song, it might feel funky if they weren't moving at all.
Definitely.
Yeah. Strange. All right. So you might have already included some of this. I like the part where you said you're always awkward, and then you bring out an example of singing in front of your stuffed animals. But
yeah, I don't have any stuffed animals, but
I was just kidding.
Some people do.
Yeah, you're not that awkward. So you might have already said some of this, but in this seminar that you did this last fall, what are some of the ways that you presented or other people brought up? I know there was a lot of conversation in that group too, of how can somebody improve their stage presence?
Oh, that was a long time ago. See, improving your stage presence, I think it just comes with time. Like just trying to be more confident in yourself, I think is important. Of course, that is a lot easier said than done. But I think just like every time you worship or every time you're on stage or in the congregation, like just do a little more. Like you don't have to go from not doing anything to doing it perfectly. Of course, no one can do it perfectly, but doing it as well as you can in like 1 week. I think just adding a little bit more, becoming more comfortable with expressing yourself, and eventually it'll just kind of come to you.
That's true. So a couple just quick little one-line answers. Is it better to hold a microphone or have a stand?
I think it depends on the song, like the set of songs you're doing. If they're all kind of like older and like they don't have a lot of like blue like fancy stuff, and like they're more like I don't know what that was supposed to mean. And they're just more simple, then a stand is nice because there's not much to do. But if you have a lot of songs that are like very, not saying like more modern songs or more worshipful, that's not what I mean, but like more modern songs that have like a stronger drum beat or like just more instrumentation going on, it's nice to hold the microphone so you can move and so that you don't accidentally start singing like to the right of the microphone, because that definitely happens. Or if you close your eyes, like I don't know, whenever I close my eyes, I'm always afraid that like I'm gonna like go to like that's the side or the top and I'm not gonna be singing in the microphone. So like I have my eyes half closed and it looks stupid, but
well, that was my next one line thing was eyes closed or not. Sometimes that's a big conversation in worship leading.
I think it depends. I don't know if you can see like how like on our stage, I don't know if you can see from the like the first row or the last row if my eyes are closed, but sometimes it's nice.
What about song lyrics? Do you memorize most of them or do you rely on iPads or screens or?
I think most of our songs memorized, but I like to have the iPad just in case I have a brain fart because, it happens a lot. Or the screen breaks on the one song I don't know.
Especially if you're leading that particular song.
Right. It's just nice to have. But I think having the lyrics memorized gives you more confidence, and then it's just easier. I don't know.
So the last one line thought is, what about rehearsals? How do rehearsals help stage presence? Should you be stage presency during a rehearsal, or should you just wait for the service?
I think it depends on like I said before, it depends on the set of songs. Like I'm not normally super stage presency during rehearsals, or maybe I am. I don't know. Am I?
Well, between songs, you usually walk around the stretch.
Oh. That is true. I think if you need to practice what you're doing, then that's good for you. If you feel like it's more of a spur of the moment type of feeling, then that's good too. But I think it's definitely good to keep it in mind while you're in rehearsal. Like just be like, oh yeah, I'll probably raise my hands at this point because that seems like a nice spot to raise my hands. Okay.
Yeah. And another thought as we were talking here, really sometimes we put too much stock into the stage. Like we think of that as like this big, huge, unbelievable thing. And really, we've always said around here that the people that are ushering and serving donuts and watching kids and doing sound and the worship team, we're all in the same group. We're like volunteering to lead God's people and serve in the church. So whether or not you're on stage or not, I mean, you don't have to like make that, it's a holy place, but you don't have to make it so uppity that you're not able just to relax. And so that's one thing you're pretty good at. You kind of just walk up on stage, take your shoes off, set down your Dunkin' Donuts tea and wheat thins, and then I'm just kidding. That's only during rehearsal. But the shoes off has become a bit of a conversation. It's kind of become a trademark. Oh, so what are some philosophies or your mindset behind that?
Well, I really just hate shoes. Like I drive barefoot. I hate winter because I have to wear shoes because my feet are cold. But I just feel like, well, okay, I should say this. Whenever I wear shoes on stage, like during rehearsal, I always trip and like almost faceplant onto the preacher's stand, like every single time. I don't know what it is. I must be cursed. But I do feel that like when I don't have my shoes on, like I feel more grounded and I feel less nervous because I'm always nervous. But I kind of feel like my feet are just, I guess sounds kind of cliche, but holy ground. I'm standing on holy ground. I want my feet to be touching the holy ground.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be in this place. It's like the song.
Yep.
You should do that song.
Which
next
one?
Sunday. Holy ground.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice song.
Well, we can't do it this Sunday. You're helping to lead worship this Sunday.
Oh yes, I am.
But we already got songs for that one. I don't think Holy Ground's in there.
Yeah, no.
But we just got sidetracked thinking about it. Well, your shoes off has been a fun conversation for people. So some people don't even know their name, and they just come to me and say, "Who's the girl that sings with her shoes off?" And then they go off on whatever compliment or thought they're going to give.
Listen.
So, all right. Well, just a couple more things here, and then we'll wrap up. But stage presence at our church has been great, and you've helped lead the way and pave the way in a lot of ways. And so you were an intern here, and then you're still serving, which is awesome. But we've also sung in Harvest Ministry, which is a ton of conferences and kids conferences and student ministry conferences and summer camps. Mm-hmm. And so do you think you have a different sort of stage presence when you're in those settings as you do when you're at church on Sunday morning where everybody's dressed up facing forward?
Definitely.
What are the differences?
It's probably going to sound really bad. I just kind of feel more like, I guess you said uppity when in conferences and in especially kids stuff. I'm definitely more whoop-de-doo, in kids stuff. I'm doing motions and I'm bouncing around and I'm smiling and they don't really care if something goes wrong. But I don't know. I guess maybe Sunday mornings I'm a little more nervous than I am in conferences.
It's more reserved. Well, it's also that, doesn't it seem like at conferences people come with more expectation?
Definitely.
Like the congregation, the assembly of people.
Mm-hmm. And they're there for the same reason. They're not just there to be there on a Sunday. Some people come because, it's Sunday, I got to go to church. Yeah. So they're there and they're standing there. People at Fire Up, especially they're jumping around. They have their hands in the air. And I think that's really great. They come to worship, but then they go back to their own churches and they're just kind of like how they were before. Enough from experience. But, I just think it's easier to, I think like we said before, reciprocate. If the congregation is doing a bunch of stuff, it's like, oh, they like this. Let's do more. Yeah.
So what kind of worship leader who wants their team to be more stage presency and wants their congregation to be more alive in worship visibly, which again isn't a prerequisite to deep-seated heart worship, but there's some factor to it. The more expressive, then the more opportunity that. What can a worship leader do? So the thing I can think of is they can pray for their team to grow in God's presence and spirit. But what else? I mean, if a worship leader came to you and said, "Hey, move more," how would you take that?
Not well. I definitely don't think that's the way to go. I think just every once in a while, I think Clint does this sometimes. When we sing No Longer Slaves, he'll say we should raise our hands. And I think that's really great. Maybe we should do that more. Hey, let's raise our hands in this part of the song because it's nice to do that. And we can all do it together because we're a family, we're a congregation, and we're a church.
Nice.
And we're nice. Yes, I hope so. But I definitely think that's one thing we can do. Another is just to keep moving, keep tapping along and see if they catch on. And if they do, that's great. Some people definitely have. I think I've noticed a little bit more groove. Yeah. But, just keep pressing on.
That is good. Well, I appreciate you, Ava. And if people are listening to this podcast and they've just bumped into the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast and they wanted just to be connected to you, you're on Instagram.
I am now on Facebook as of 2 months ago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm an adult.
On Instagram, you're what?
Andrews_Ava.
And on Facebook, you're just Ava Andrews.
I think so, yeah.
You're not anything else?
No.
That's good. So, and also you can find Ava on various pictures and videos and whatnot through Harvest Ministry page. And we keep bringing up our church here in Troy, and it's in Troy, Illinois. And a lot of examples that come from these podcasts are in that. So, all right, Ava, I didn't actually prepare you for this last thing, but is there anything else, just one last thing you would encourage worship team vocalists on? One final thought or just a little tidbit. You've said a lot of great stuff here.
I think just keep smiling. That's really important. I think especially right now, we don't want to come to church because it's just weird. We're online, we're on a camera, it just feels weird. We don't know if our hair looks frizzy, that's definitely me. But I think just keep smiling and keep bebopping along and do your best.
That's great. Keep smiling. Maybe on the show notes here, I'll post the picture of the Sunday you lost your glasses.
Oh, yeah. It's okay if you lose your glasses. I promise. It's not the end of the world. I do it every day.
So I think you closed your eyes most that whole morning.
Yeah, probably.
That was great. Those are some great pictures, though, for some reason. I don't know why that cracked me up.
I look better without my glasses.
Yeah. Well, the screen was behind you, and somebody took pictures, and it just happened to be the day that you came in and couldn't find your glasses. That was great.
Don't drive without your glasses. That's bad.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good public service announcement. All right. Well, appreciate your time, Ava, and thanks for your ministry. And thank you, everybody, for listening to the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast. And we're so thankful to have you on this journey and want to pray for your team, and especially as we come out of this pandemic time and we start meeting again in person. Just pray for God's Spirit to fill us and help us to lead the church faithfully. And we're praying for you.
Thank you for listening to the Worship Leader Toolbox podcast. If you would like to support this podcast, there is a support link in the show notes below. Also, we would love to have you click subscribe and give us a 5-star rating so more people can discover us. Don't forget to join the Worship Leader Toolbox Facebook page for connection and community. If you have any questions, please contact us or leave us a message at worshipleadertoolbox.com/podcast.